What's up, everybody? It's your boy Undead Jay from over at the Square Gamer, and also joining me today is Nathan Hodge from over at the Square Gamer. What's going on, Nate?
What's going on, Jay?
Chilling, dude. It's been a while since our beautiful voices have graced a microphone, and it's been a minute since we've done a podcast.
Yeah, it's been quite a while now.
Yeah, so we probably got a lot to talk about. But the first thing that I wanted to get into today, Nate, is I wanted to talk about these three first person shooters that, have come out this holiday season with some abysmal sales, to say the least. And it kind of got us thinking, whether or not that we felt like first person shooter genre, like we're starting to see some genre fatigue. So I want to get your opinion on it first and just hear what you have to say about it.
It looks as if, numbers are starting to reflect the downward trend in first-person shooters, but I think a lot of it may lend itself to the fact that we've had some really great third-person action-adventure titles within the last couple of years, and I think just having those experiences has started to help set the precedent for a shift in the genre movement.
Yeah, that's pretty true. There have been a lot of great games. We saw two huge action adventure titles come out this year. We saw Uncharted 4, which was an amazing game that got reviewed really well, and then Rise of the Tomb Raider hit PlayStation 4 this year, right around October. So those two games may be eating into some of the first-person shooter player base. Being that those are third-person shooters, so that could be some of it, but everyone's kind of been waiting to see when Call of Duty would kind of have to bow down to its predecessors and, not be the most supreme shooter that comes out in the holiday season. And according to Metacritic, that might be this year, Nate, because right before we got on, I went over and I hopped on and I looked at all three of the big first person shooters that come out this holiday season. And in this order, it goes Titanfall 2 sitting at an 89% Metacritic score, EA's Battlefield 1 sitting at an 88%. And then rounding out the top three is Call of Duty Infinite Warfare sitting at a low 78%. Now, that's pretty low for a Call of Duty game. Usually those come out every year, and despite the internet's hate, they all review really well with critics. But this year, not so much. A score of 78, it's not a terrible score, but it's nowhere near what we're used to seeing with Call of Duty. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, none of these numbers seem particularly bad, but uh, I just think it comes down to, I mean, especially in Call of Duty's, case, giving the fans what they want, really. And I see, they tried to go into a new direction with, the space combat, but you're already up against, Halo, that's already a space combat game, and, when you don't have much
Right.
difference between another genre or another game within the same genre, it can make it feel like it's not original or not satisfying the need that it's known for in its own franchise. So I think that probably led most to turning away some gamers from the latest Call of Duty game.
Yeah, and then you have, Battlefield 1. Now, of these three, I have to say Battlefield 1 strikes my fancy the most. Based on what I've seen, some of my favorite internet personalities like Angry Joe, like he of the three games, he seemed to like Battlefield 1 the most, and I kind of align with him on that. I like the game types. I just like the look of the overall look of the game, and I like the squad system. When you are fortunate enough to have a couple of friends on, you can squad up together, and if one of you dies, you can spawn right back on anyone on your squad. So I think that's really cool. The visuals look amazing. I like how it has that World War I time setting, and it almost seems like they beat Call of Duty out of the gate on that. Like I'm pretty sure that Call of Duty wanted to go, back to the World War era, but they kind of have probably been struggling with how they could do that because now there's rumors coming out that the next Call of Duty game will take place in the World War II, setting. So, what's your take on that?
Well, see, I don't know if that's going to work out too well for them because it's going to just seem like they're doing what they're doing now and chasing after, the newest fad instead of remaining true to the
Right.
franchise itself.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Because it always has been like modern warfare. It's kind of like big emphasis on the modern, and the whole infinite warfare taking place in space. I just kind of feel like with Destiny and and like you mentioned Halo, I kind of feel like they kind of you know they're not in the right what's the word I'm looking for here, just that sci-fi shooter. I just feel like it's been done and done and done and done, and it's happened a lot lately. But what we haven't had is like a postmodern, or I'm sorry, a pre-modern war. So I think that once the holidays all kind of settle out, I think that Battlefield's going to be the one that kind of dominates the sales chart, and I think it's the one that'll hold the players for the longest. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, because with Battlefield 1, they're not exactly giving us a unique experience that we've never seen before in gaming, but it's something that we haven't seen in a while, so it's fresh to a lot of players that are coming onto the scene. So I think people will gravitate more towards a new experience rather than you know getting into a franchise in an oversaturated genre as it is.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that because that's super true. That when it comes to these first-person shooters, we still haven't had one that's come out in quite some time that differentiates itself from the others. The only first-person shooter that I can think of that's really feels different is Destiny, and I mean that game's been out for 4 years now, so it's not, or what is it? 3 years? It's 3 or 4 years. Regardless, that's the only one that really kind of shakes up the formula because yeah, it's a shooter at heart, but it throws in a lot of PVE, which you don't really see these shooters favor the PVE. It's mostly PvP oriented, and I just kind of feel like when it comes to shooters and myself, in my age and where my interests kind of align right now, I would rather play cooperatively with my friends rather than get on and play player versus player. How do you feel about that? Would you rather play player versus enemy or player versus player, or what's your thoughts on that?
I'm a big fan of player versus enemy and cooperative player experiences, which that in itself may lead to the shift in maybe first person shooters going out as the genre because a lot of the staple first person shooters now are going to multiplayer only experiences. And some of the top games of this year have been very story driven games. So I think that divide may have players leaning back towards, more story-driven games and more cooperative elements rather than, competitive elements. Because online competitive
Yeah.
gameplay can be very frustrating.
Yeah, and I got a little bit of a rebuttal to that because I don't entirely agree with that. I feel like that was the case maybe, a year or two before this, because we saw games like Evolve and the original Titanfall that tried to have that multiplayer only component. And, there was a lot of outcry from the internet saying that, hey, we want our campaign too, which it's kind of weird because I know that they had to see some kind of data that alleviate or not alleviate brought them to the fact that nobody really plays the campaign. They'll put it on for a little bit, and then all they'll want to do is just jump right back on the multiplayer. So a lot of these developers just scrapped the campaign, but now we are starting to see that outcry of people wanting the campaign, and it may be because of games like Destiny that have proved that, if you can build a really solid multiplayer to keep people interested, and then you give them that awesome, raid experiences, like you see in Diablo and other games that have raids in them. It's giving everybody what they want. And if we saw anything from what Destiny's been able to accomplish, it's that they are holding their player base, and they have been for 3 years. So I find that really intriguing, that Destiny is the game that's kind of figured out how to hold their players. I mean, we're seeing these shooters come out, and myself, you, Mike, and Pedro, the other two guys from the Square Gamers, we're all kind of up in arms about which shooter that we want to get this holiday season, so we can stream some content and have some fun with them. But we're all kind of struggling with which one do we want to get.
Right, yeah, I mean, and we do have a lot of variety to choose from. It's just,
but nothing really is giving us exactly what we want, and I think it's just because the formula is old. The die and respawn, and then you get these weird spawns, and I think it was cool 5 years ago, but then like you said, we have so many new franchises that are coming out, and so many new subgenres that have came out that gamers are starting to broaden their horizon. It's not all about what's the hot shooter coming out this year anymore, as much as it is what is the cool new IP that's coming out that's going to be interesting and do new things. What's your thoughts on that?
yeah, I mean, I really think that that's probably, where the industry is heading, because we've seen so many new and creative ideas, and have, old franchises are even coming back. Like Jak and Daxter was a huge hit, and that was a third-person action-adventure game. And, Crash Bandicoot's going to come back too. So I think we'll see this over the course of video games evolution as a whole anyway, kind of cycling through different genres, as some things fall out of style and some things fall back into style. But I just think it's a really interesting cycle that we're going through.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just kind of wonder what it's going to be like to be this game that's trying to hold an audience for a long period of time, because it just seems to be like what you said. People are just kind of ready to, play a game and then move on to the next game. They don't want to be, they don't want their attention to be on one game. Because the way Call of Duty games used to be is, you would play Call of Duty, for a year's time, and then, the next November when the next one was rolling right around, you would basically just roll right over into that game. And now, because it does have other shooters to worry about, and it does have these, other new subgenres to worry about, I just kind of, I don't really know what that looks like moving forward. I don't know what those numbers are going to start, looking like. But one thing's for sure is that it's a great time to be a gamer. We have a lot of different variety and a lot of different games to choose from. Now I think the problem that we're running into is well, do I really want to buy this multiplayer shooter if none of my friends are going to buy, now that there is more variety, I feel like that's the problem we're running into now. And I look forward to seeing how developers are going to be able to react to it. And I really would like to see what, Destiny 2 is going to look like, and see how they are able to continue the success that they've had. But, being that you're not the biggest shooter guy, I feel like we should wrap this topic up right now. Good hashing that out with you, Nate. The next thing I want to talk to, and like I said, we have been off the mic for a while, and it's been a while since we've done a podcast. We finally figured out what the Nintendo NX is, and I just wanted, since you're Nintendo Nate, I want to get you on record as to what your thoughts are on the NX and what you saw that you did like and that you didn't like. So I give you the mic,
Okay,
sir.
so I do like the overall concept of the NX. I think it's a really clever design and it does some interesting things. However, on the other hand, I don't know if it's going to be a system I'm going to want to jump immediately into. I'm just one of those people who felt like the Wii U still had some life left in it, and I hate to see it not utilized to its full potential. But with that being said, Nintendo's got a good chance at launching this system and it really taking off because of all the unique features it has. But what I really think that's going to make this a success, and really what makes any console a success, is having good games at launch. So we've already seen leaked details that the NX or the Switch is going to launch with the new Super Mario 3D World Land experience, however that's going to work, and then it'll have Super Smash Brothers and Splatoon at the very least. Now that's all well and good, but that's only one new game, and I'm sure the others are going to be ports of some sort with added features. I hear that the new Super Smash Brothers is going to come included, with all the DLC and everything, which makes that a great value to pick up at launch.
Let us not forget about Zelda Breath of the Wild as
That
well.
well, see, because that's coming out on the Wii U. Like, I just don't know how to feel about that one, really. Like, how do I classify that? It's basically a game that's coming out.
Yeah, but if you look at I was gonna say if you look at what the PS4 and Xbox One when they launched, they still had games back on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. Like The Last of Us was on the PS3, but then we got the remastered version on the PS4, and you had those launch shooters that were coming out on both consoles. You had Assassin's Creed that were on both consoles, so we're seeing the same thing
E-
here. So it's not
But
really
yeah, none of those
different.
games really feel next gen, though. They feel like they fit a space in between generations. Their next gen counterparts, have slightly better graphics and all that, but we're not really expecting the Switch to have that extra graphical fidelity that we would see over Wii U versions. So
Yeah, that's kind of true. I see what you're saying there because yeah, they are saying that based on early impressions and what we know about this Integra chip that's going to be used, it will put its graphics somewhere in between the Wii U and the PS4 in terms of graphical fidelity. Which a lot of people are saying, well, why upgrade then? And I can see what you're saying. I see what you're saying that they're not giving us a whole lot of reason. It seems like the big reason to, no pun intended, make the Switch is so you could take your games on the go, which the Wii U does not allow you to
right,
do.
and I think it will succeed in that way. I think because the Nintendo Wii doesn't have a strong following and the market is dominated by basically home consoles right now, having this hybrid is going to be a interesting niche that Nintendo can fill. But I think the way they're going to win people over like me, who have been hardcore Nintendo fans throughout their entire cycle, is that if they give me some incentive to trade in my Wii U towards the Switch, like if my digital games automatically switch over to the Switch, then that's more incentive to me. There was also rumors that we'd be able to trade in our physical copies of Wii U games for their for a discounted price at the least maybe, and get our Switch counterparts for the launch. If they can pull off things like that and really make it worth our while to upgrade and not feel like we're losing out on some of the experiences that we had on Wii U, because honestly, I wouldn't even want to trade in my Wii U until I know exactly what the Switch is capable of, because the Wii U gives me, the opportunity to play, Wii games and, GameCube, well, maybe not GameCube games anymore, but, it gives me backwards compatibility, which I always like. And
So that's like your big sell. That's the thing that you need to be sold on, basically, is just backwards compatibility, because that's what it keeps sounding like
Well,
to me.
backwards compatibility will help a lot, but they just need to give us enough incentive to, upgrade from not having a great library in the first place, I guess. So I guess, yeah,
So basic. I was gonna say, it sounds like you want like a next gen version of Metroid, or some unannounced first party Nintendo game. Do you think we'll see it?
I'm keeping my hopes low for that. I mean, I did want to mention that, if they gave us a next gen Metroid, that, that could really move consoles, but I just, I want to keep my expectations low here for the Switch's launch, because Nintendo's not been absolutely the best at giving, the fans what they want. I mean, with Metroid and Mega Man and all these other great franchises they've been sitting on for a while, they really need to do something to, give us what we want as, Nintendo fans. But I'm going to hedge my bets on, them just hopefully giving us, some backwards compatibility with the eShop and, some extra trade-in value on current Wii U games in order to get, people who were so invested in the Wii U on board with the Switch.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the Switch itself. How do you feel? Because I really like the design of the console. I really like how you can take the tablet on the go with you. I think the build quality of the tablet looks really good. The resolution looks great on the screen. It's multi-touch screen, so that's great. I like how it has the removable controllers, so you can kind of set the tablet up on the little kickstand that kicks out of the back, and you can just kind of it kind of really, to me, it's like what I always wanted the PlayStation Vita to be. Like, that's what the NX, or I mean the Switch, appears to be. I'm super stoked on the design. I like how it slides into the home console, so then you can use like a pro style controller to really control the games the way they, the big AAA experiences, the way they were intended to be played, with just more of a traditional style controller. So one of the big questions to me were, how is this thing going to control? And I liked what I saw. And there's also I think there's still rumors that when you slide the tablet into the console itself, you do get a bump in graphical fidelity. So if that is the case, that has me super pumped too. So what's your thoughts on the controls and the overall design of the
The
console?
overall design to me looks phenomenal. I love it. It looks both unique yet familiar at the same time, and the transformable controller is very innovative, and I think it looks comfortable. I'm very pleased that they're giving us plenty of options as far as controllers go. We've got the Pro controller, we've got a transformable controller we can break down into multi-controller, aspects. I think they did a great job with all of that. I'm really actually kind of impressed with how good a job they did with it, because,
Yeah, the launch trailer did a really great job at showing people what this thing was. But, what was kind of unique, and the unique situation that they found themselves in is like, how can we tell the consumer that, yes, you can take this console on the go, but, our target is it for it to be a home console first and foremost. I think they did a pretty good job showing off all the features, but addressing to the consumers that, this isn't a handheld only console.
right, yeah, they did a really good job with that promotional video. It was a little kind of hipsterish, but they did a good job of, like, basically showing off, situations that you would find yourself using the console in. Instead of just telling us, hey, you can do this and this with it, they just showed us, when you're on a road trip, you can kill a couple hours with the console. When you're on a flight, you can kill a few hours by playing on this thing. When you're at home and you gotta walk your dog real quick, you can take the console with you, so you don't have to be playing it. You can take it into other rooms. They did a really good job of just showing us what it can do without straight up telling us.
What are the odds that we're gonna see people come next March sitting in a bar up at the bar? They got their Nintendo Switch sitting right in front of them with the kickstand up, and everyone at the bar is playing games
Uh,
together. What are the odds of that?
I really think that is a strong possibility. I mean, some people are going to do that, and I think it'll be really fun. And that's actually a great, almost like the thing itself is almost a marketing tool, right? Because the biggest way to get a consumer into buying your product is to put it into their hands. And if your console can leave your living room and you can take it with you, you can immediately show it to people and put it in their hands, and automatically they get the experience. So I I gotta hand it Nintendo. They may really have something on their hands here.
Yeah. Do you think it was smart for them to stay out of the high tech, high graphical fidelity type of mentality? You think it's good for them not to get in that console race and war with Microsoft and Sony? Because, this thing is not a beast when it comes to the graphics. But what it does have to offer is something entirely different, a new way to play. Do you think that was a smart thing for them to do? Betting on the hybrid mentality that this thing
Most
is?
definitely, because I mean, let's face it, it's hard to crack those two right now. You got Microsoft and PlayStation 4 basically dominating the landscape, and they're coming out with more and more powerful consoles. The whole framework of how generation cycles is going to work is changing. So trying to compete with them would have been next to impossible to break into that. But with this hybrid and with basically keeping the cost of developing games cheaper, they'll have a real edge on both those companies because if they play their cards right, they can develop games cheaper and faster, and that means more games for their console. And if they design the console right, that makes it attractive for developers to easily design for this console, then they could get a plethora of really great games going.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And that was the one thing about the Wii U. It's not that the Wii U was a terrible console, and it's not like it lacked that much in the specs department because we did see games like Mario Kart 8 that looked just as good, as any other, major, marquee flagship AAA game on the PS4 or the Xbox One. Like it could hold its own, and it looked good enough. I will say that I talked to a couple of my diehard Nintendo fans, kind of off the record, and just asked them, like, is this the Nintendo that you wanted? And I was surprised to hear a couple of them say that they wish that Nintendo would have tried a little harder, packing in some bigger specs on this thing. I was actually shocked to hear that. But I guess that's just them kind of thinking that that's why the Wii U lost the last race is because it wasn't beefy enough. So I think it's smart what Nintendo's doing, and I think their outlook should be pretty great if, like you said, they figure out the backwards compatibility and they truly support this thing with some great games. And I'm really curious to see. There's got to be a hidden launch title in there that's going to be like a mic drop. Like there's something there. I just kind of wonder what it will be. A lot of people are thinking Metroid, and Metroid makes sense, man, because they went through a whole console and they didn't even put out a Metroid, so it has to be there somewhere.
I would hope so because they put off a couple of spin-offs recently, and usually when they do that sort of thing, it leads up to a bigger game. So here's hoping.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I close out this topic, is there anything else you want to hit on it?
I think that about covers it for me.
Yeah, same here, man. Lots of other stuff that we missed out on, folks, but we don't want to keep this thing running too long. We're about to hit the 30-minute mark. we're going to try to start getting back on these regularly, doing them every single week. So look forward to us blessing the mics next week. Nate, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Until then, keep it locked to the Square Gamer on Facebook.